Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations. Hello once again, welcome to the Simulationist podcast. It is iteration 59 of, I don't know.
Potentially infinite number.
59 out of infinity. Today is October the 20th, 2013, and my name is Josh Trelevin, and with me as always...
Ryan Kirkby on the other side of the mic tonight.
Hey Ryan, as always. How are you this week?
Pretty good. I found some very nice news stories that relate to the various starting topics we have. The one, I'm always a sucker for a good conspiracy story.
Yep.
And Dick Cheney just does not let me down. If you want a good conspiracy idea, Dick Cheney is like a master. The guy should probably be writing books. The thoughts that come out of this guy's head make for just such amazing stories, if they were ever true.
Does he not? Isn't there a Dick Cheney?
But he doesn't write. He doesn't write fiction. I mean, maybe his autobiography. Yeah, his autobiography might be seminal. Just partially fictional for making sure it's a good book and based on his perspective.
If he gets someone else to write it.
Yeah. What he should do is have someone copy down his thoughts and then write a book around some of the stuff. Because get this. The thing I saw in the news was he was saying when he was vice president, he learned that his pacemaker had some wireless functions, so that if he's in a cardiac arrest, you put the proper electronic equipment near it, and then they can make the pacemaker effectively jumpstart the heart again properly if there's any extra complications.
Okay, yeah.
And it can send information out, so it's according to the pacemaker, you did have a miniature stroke here, and we can tell from the the wireless communications. But he found out wireless communications into my heart. He had that disabled. He had the wireless part disabled because he was afraid of terrorists hacking the pacemaker and killing him.
Well, I can believe someone being paranoid about that, especially if you don't really understand technology. But even if you do, that sounds possible to me.
Well, here's the thing: is they do have the hackers seminar every year down in Las Vegas, and they do wonderful things with hacking. They've been able to prove that the new swipe cards, the new insert cards versus the old swipe cards, there's not any real difference in security, and there may be some problems with that whole, I just wave my card over top and it automatically pays for me. How people can wind up getting your information with the right know-how and electronics behind it.
Oh, if you got a little reader or something.
Yeah, this is clearly it could just be a person walks next to you in the street because the card is always active.
Is the card? How does that work? Does the card broadcast?
No, it's just got the passive energy thing in there. But it gets kind of technical. But
anyways,
with the right know-how, this is far beyond your average. I'm going to steal your credit card number schemes. Right now, I think the biggest credit card stealing stuff is when nobody's looking. I will switch out the credit card reader for one of my own, and it will look the same, but it will record your numbers, and then later I'll switch it back and access the information.
Okay.
Haha! Which is pretty nice and villainous evil sort of thing, but this is what they're talking about is far and above.
They caught some guys in the lower mainland not long ago.
Yes.
With all that equipment, so.
Yes, for that sort of thing. So, it is out there, but I would not be surprised if this hacker seminar did find a way to tinker around with a pacemaker through the wireless communications.
Yep.
I don't know what they'd wind up doing with it, because, that's... The hackers there aren't really malicious hackers. They are people just experimenting. People just, can this be done?
Some of them might be malicious hackers,
Probably not.
Well, that's the thing is most of them exhibit just like the pure essence of science. Like, can this be done? And then they work out to find out. And then, hey, if it can be done, they go to the seminar and they wow everybody by hacking a laptop's battery and forcing the laptop to catch fire because of that.
Well, it reminds me of the Hitler plots. You know, like thinking, like planning his day out and figuring out where he's going to be exactly, and what seat he's going to sit at the table, and you know the tics and his mannerisms and all that. So you can hatch an assassination plot, but it has to be targeted very specifically. Of course, with the vice president, I suppose he is a very high value target. If somebody,
or at least a symbolic target, even if he's like, oh no, we lost the vice president, just nominate someone else there, Mr. President.
Or he thinks he's a high value target, anyways. Even if
he is the kind of person to very much perceive himself as perhaps one of the highest value targets on the planet.
Yeah.
But
and he would perceive that as a vulnerability, I suppose. It makes sense to cover all your bases.
But the concept of someone hacking the pacemaker to make it do a nice calypso beat instead of a proper heartbeat, I don't know. That seems a little much. Well, I suppose just stop it and it'd be the easy way. But let's face it, if you're going to hack someone's pacemaker, you got to do some extra flair in there too. Set it to a nice little rumba samba beat. Oh yeah. That earns you notoriety for the rest of time.
Well, I want to see that
I killed someone with the music. It just happened to be attached to his heart, so
Killing me softly with his song.
Well, there you go. That's one way to look at it.
Now, but anyways.
No, I think that was a short enough part of the lyrics that is fair usage. Also, there was no music accompaniment in the background unless you edit this, so I think you're all good.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I found that to be this is like grade A prime conspiracy idea. They will hack my heart and kill me if it keeps up with wireless communication and function. That's good stuff.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Paranoiac. Is that a word? Paranoiac?
I suppose we can conjugate it properly, but it's just generally paranoid.
But a paranoid person could be just a paranoid.
Yeah.
Not. Yeah, okay.
You can just call them a paranoid. And that way whatever they do is a paranoid.
I like paranoiac.
Okay.
As a person who is paranoid.
It's like a hypochondriac, but, of them, like more of like, oh, they're going to do stuff to me as opposed to I'm actually sick. So yeah, okay. Paranoiac. New word. We're coining it. Someone notify Oxford. We got this.
Hey, they might put this podcast in the OED.
If it catches on, it catches on.
Because it might be the first, Well, I'm sure someone else is. That's the problem with this internet. It's everybody makes up their own words and then.
Hey, but that's the thing. Is the internet is the ultimate testing ground. If it lives, it lives. If it doesn't live, it dies and gets washed away in the tide of history.
Okay, well, we should wash that away in the tide of history.
But yes, I just found that to be just a great paranoid theory. And it's stuff like that. Like, you would not have thought, like, someone's going to hack a pacemaker. I would not have thought of that.
Hey, well, maybe I would have if I was getting a pacemaker and had it on my brain and was paranoid.
Well, see, there we go. You have to really have the right set of circumstances. And Dick Cheney really does inhabit the true soul of the paranoid person. Whatever reason, we'll let the viewers, listeners out there decide on that one.
You can imagine like a black shadowy cabal meeting in a dark basement somewhere, like around a table, and they're thinking, okay, we're gonna get the vice president, and they're going through a folder. Okay, what are his weaknesses? Let's see his medical history. Oh, he has a pacemaker. What can we do with that? Oh, apparently it has this new Wi-Fi thing. Oh, can we hack that? Well, and then it seems.
Wouldn't it just be
obvious.
easier to have hidden somebody in the trees when he's out during one of his hunting expeditions, and then just get him that way? It seems like it would require a lot less technical know-how to do it that way.
I like the way you. No, I don't. But no, actually, probably simpler is probably better. Yeah.
Well, of course, mind you, if this was a really good quality, cabal and that we've set up here, they would pursue both ends to make sure they keep their bases covered that way.
Of course.
So if Dick Cheney's going to up the game, make sure it's not going to be easy to get him, they got to make sure to diversify all their attempts to get him to maximize success.
Of course, I suppose if you're looking for weaknesses, it's like let's go down the list. He's a human being. He relies on blood circulating through his system. Check. We can stop. How can we stop that? Maybe with a fast-moving projectile, perhaps. Yeah.
Or we could just send out some electrical pulses to try and stop the heart. But honestly, I think the projectile stuff is already developed. We don't need any new technology for that. We just got to be at the right place at the right time. Or the wrong place at the wrong time, depending on how you perceive it. I mean,
well, but hang on,
it would be the assassination attempt, so, you know.
Yeah, do you think it would be easier to disguise... I don't know if we should be... Oh, well.
Yeah.
Easier to disguise an assassination attempt if it's...
Well, see, that's the thing, is Dick Cheney was like paranoid because he was a person that they would want to get.
Yeah.
So in his mind, it would likely be that they want the world to know that what they can do. And
they
so,
wouldn't just kill him and make it look like an accident.
If they made it look like an accident, it could have just been an accident. You know, oh, these things happen. You know, I mean, he has had to have several heart surgeries before. He has had a few heart attacks. This was not unexpected. But no, if you want to prove how bad you are and how much you oppose that, you know, the George W. Bush's, you know, administration, then you let the world know how it goes.
Well, here's my question though: why aren't more terrorist organizations taking credit for accidents that happen? Like, accidents happen to senators and, like, you know, people get in plane crashes, like the senator from Alaska.
Because if you claim responsibility for what is proven to be an accident, you lose a lot of face in the international community. It's like, I'm sure you really did that. Yeah, just like you really made that plane disappear.
Yeah, because the terrorists are all about keeping faith.
Well, here's the thing: is they do have, at least in their own minds, a code of honor they follow, and.
Okay.
I mean, if they make these wild, baseless accusations, are they really any better than PETA?
Well, the thing is, I think, actually, like, my point is, I think they actually often do, but it's for weird things. It's like for, like, accidents the U.S. military has in the Middle East or whatever, or accidents that happen in Pakistan with the government.
The accident happened near where their operatives were. They can claim a link.
So they,
as opposed to just, oh, no, that was us. Guess how we did it.
Although, if I had a terrorist group, that's all I do. I wouldn't do any actual terrorism. I'd just, you know, claim all the accidents. Say, yep.
The hurricane? I did that. I have a weather-generating satellite. Pay me the money now. Although I suppose, if you were really big into performance art, you could set up a false, you know, like artistic fake, you know, terrorist organization that makes these ludicrous, cartoony-level claims of what they've done. Just as how throughout history they have had fake, you know, like humorous political parties that, you know, don't actually try to get any seats, don't try and do anything but spoof what, you know, the real parties are doing.
So if you put this in your Shadowrun campaign, for example, if there was a terrorist organization that was making these outrageous claims, would your players just kind of laugh you off the table?
Well, here's the thing. If they've done their background reading, they would be very, very concerned.
It's possible because it's in Shadowrun.
Well, here's the thing. In the history of Shadowrun, the Native American people made claims like, if you don't, you know, like, get the hell off of our traditional property, and by that we mean North America, you know, we are going to bring down the, you know, the thunder and the lightning. And, you know, the governments at the time would laugh because, you know, you can really bring down thunder and lightning. And then they did. They brought down huge storms, and they made four dormant volcanoes go up simultaneously. I mean, you go down to the Puyallup in the Seattle of the future in there, 2060s. It's not a city. It's lava flows because Mount Rainier is one of the 4 volcanoes that went up.
That's cool. Although, like, I don't know, like, how do players know what's true and what's not true in a world where magical stuff can just happen?
And that's the sort of thing. It's like, oh, did he, you know, just make the claim, or did he have like a summoned, you know, astral spirit that happens to have the accident, you know, a power attached to him? Maybe this wasn't a pure accident. Maybe this was a mana-induced accident, in quotation marks.
I suppose. And I suppose there's this sort of same reward system that's like, if you go and investigate something, you're likely to find something. Because the DM wants to keep it fun.
Oh, yes, and investigations are a good part of the Shadowrun campaign. So you could have, like, one of the magician, or respected magician, all that, do an astral study of the place. And then he goes, oh, I detect no astral signatures here. There was no high force spirits enough to have caused this. It must have been an actual natural incident. We can report this to the proper, you know, independent news lines, and they will have the true story. published out on the Matrix by the end of tonight.
No, I like that because you turn it into even though it's like, oh, we found nothing, you still turn it into...
We found a positive negative. We know it is negative. As opposed to a false positive, the negative positive, or the negative negative where you don't know what the heck happened at all.
No, I like this because that's sort of an axiom that I hear from people talking about the value of science, like Bill Nye talks about. If you do find something cool, like the Hadron Collider or whatever, if you do find the Higgs boson, that's awesome. If you don't find it, even better.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's the thing a lot of people don't understand about science until they get into it. A confirmed negative is just as good, technically, as a confirmed positive.
Yeah.
It's like, we have been able to prove no link between these two things. And then everyone says, oh, okay, good. Now that we know they're unlinked, that means, for these other tests we do, that's not a variable. It's been proven it can't be a variable. They are unlinked.
Yeah, that's good. And, of course, the GM can also, if that's not enough, although it probably could be, but the GM could be like, well, while you happen to be there, you run into some other adventure hook, like somebody has...
You determine no astral signature from previously inhabiting spirits in this area, but you do see someone else in astral form looking over the area. Is that like the person like another potential threat, like they are going to try something there? Or is it like another investigator? Do you have a rival team all of a sudden? You could really take it a decent amount of places. And if the rest of the players are okay about focusing on just the one guy who's astrally projecting, because not everyone can,
right? Yeah.
Then you could really set up a nice thing and just work it on through there and just tell the one person's time in the spotlight, which, as we've spoken before, is, I believe, a great part of storytelling. It can't be about everybody all the time. Sometimes it's about just the one person, just for a little bit.
Yeah, and everybody can enjoy that story and sort of...
Provided, they're aware that sometimes it will be, for you guys just listening in on the story, because you can't go on to the Matrix sometimes. You can't go into astral space sometimes.
Yeah, although it's always fun to get, like, comments from the peanut gallery. And like,
yeah.
You should use your Thursday spell. Okay, I use my Thursday spell.
Well, that's the thing, is a good DM could even make it be that, yes, she's got some nice little watcher spirits. They can't actually contribute anything, but they can chime in for things. And so that way they can have a proxy presence there. It's not really all that official. It could be just, it's like, oh yeah, some of your mage friends are making sure to cover your back. At least, alert your friends as to if anything's happening to you. And then those proxy spirits, the watchers, just happen to be played by the other player.
That's cool.
You can do the same with programs, extra programs in the Matrix. Just say it costs, a couple extra megapulses, and then you got your nice little snappy banter next to you, so you're extra cool. It's not official, but it's something easily enough you can insert in, and it doesn't break any of the setting style.
Well, and it's sort of up to you as the GM to determine how disruptive that's going to be. Like, sometimes you might want to not have them, but sometimes you want to involve everybody. So, yeah, it's just, I guess it's a judgment call, basically.
Depends on the players, really, I suppose. Yeah. But, I thought that was pretty good. I got a second news story that came up. Last iteration, we were talking about, the black market, where anything can be found and bought and sold and all that. Within this last week, the search engine ISO Hunt has agreed to shut down. And this is a Canadian thing that it's a Canadian search engine that was very heavily, if not almost wholly, connected to illegal torrents.
Okay, yeah.
And so the guys decided to shut down and pay the MPAA $110 million. But there's no way he has that amount, so they're not going to see anything like that. Okay. It's mostly just a big number to scare other people away from. But you go to any of the news stories, you go to Ars Technica, you go over to the CBC, a news website, and you read the story, and all the comments are pretty much the same. It's like, the MPA is just trying to shut it down because they, want their exclusivity and their false, scarcity. And if you shut one down, two more will crop up. And so this got me thinking, because I was talking last week. Yeah, I was talking last week how the black market, is a thing for a story. Like, even if the police in the story that you're writing come down and they raid the black market and they crush and they kill, and get, otherwise obliterate it, the reason the black market came to be is still there. The demand for those services still exists. And so that's why the black market can't be stopped in that case. The only way to destroy it would be to destroy the reason for it. You can't actually destroy it. And so we're at this interesting point where those who follow this sort of thing about what's going on and who's doing what illegal torrents and websites because this is something interesting to follow. I mean, it's this nice passive news story to read. The Demonoid group got shut down. The Pirate Bay is being shut down again this week. They just changed their ISP up a little bit, and it works around the blocks that the government put into place. It's still operating.
Yeah.
ISO Hunt got shut down, but something always crops up, and so here's a nice opportunity. It's being planned. It's in the news. This will shut down and cease to be. Now we watch what will crop up. Something will crop up because the demand for these services in this particular model are still there.
Yeah.
Well,
so I remember Napster. So.
The old time nerds will remember that, and so it's a nice story to follow. And right now you're at a very opportune moment for those of you who have friends, connections in this sort of world. Keep an eye out. Find out what's going on. See how it crops back up again. This is an excellent story to retell.
Interest not to actually download anything, though.
Well, I won't make any judgment calls. People do things, Okay.
Yeah.
But we do officially not condone such practices because then we could be potentially sued for,
However,
fostering.
Download our podcast and upload it to every torrent site you can.
It's completely legal.
Yes.
So, if the MPA tries to bust you on that,
we're giving you permission right here and now. So do that.
And the MPAA has been known to try and bust down on stuff that they don't own or stuff that was admittedly free to distribute. So you can do it just to spite them. Even if you don't think it's going to get a lot of downloads, still put a big torrent up for us just to spite those guys in power.
Well, yeah.
Hopefully not just for that, but
I was hoping for the exposure, but
any
good too.
Any reason's a good reason, at least for us. But yes, those who are in the know and watching this sort of stuff, keep an eye out, see where it's going. You can use that as a wonderful basis for a novel or a story, or heck, even just to tell the story to the world about what actually did happen next. Yeah. Because eventually, what will happen next will become what did happen next, and that will become part of history, the history of the fight over illegal downloads. And so you can learn exactly how does the black market reform. And that's the thing is, everyone says, you try and wipe it out, and 2-3 more will pop up in their place. So if you are really close connected to the heart of this, or want to get close connected to the heart of it, you can find out why does it split into 3? Why doesn't it just okay, everybody, now we changed the name. Now it's whatever ISO Hunt is spelled backwards.
Yeah, well that might turn out to be easy to stomp on, rather than well, it's not even 2. What if 10 little sites pop up? Which
is more likely the case, but some won't make it too big, and it'll wind up being that in the end, 3 bigger names will wind up taking the space. Ultimately, one will become the big one, and that's the one they go after next. And
Yeah, I think that explains the cycle.
But if you want, you'd have a heck of a time tracking down these people and asking them, why did you set this up and why didn't you go with the other style that the other person was doing? Why is it becoming 3 and not just, and another one takes its place? Why is it 3 more crop up? Why is it so many more? Why does it branch? Then you can get a really nice psychology of the person who does these, I'll say technically illegal activities. It's not really criminal in the same sense that, stealing cars is criminal. There's some nuances between, and I do like to maintain the fact that I acknowledge the differences.
Yeah, I think it's important to pay people for their work, although sometimes it's impossible, so I don't know what you do that. I guess
I will admit, I have had to go to some nefarious means to find a movie that was otherwise completely unfindable through any legitimate method.
Yeah, I suppose the thing to do then would be go ahead and download it and then maybe mail them a check or something, if you can even find someone to mail a check to.
But on the other hand, if you're not distributing it for purposes yourself, if you're only downloading a song and then you make sure no one else can get the copy that you've got and you just listen to it for personal reasons, how does that differ from listening to it on YouTube? Would you really need to pay the person, the money?
And it's not even that. I think it's technically wrong, but it's not even worth worrying about to me.
I would like to see one of the major players say, "Come on, okay, listen, you guys give me the money that 99 cents per song you've illegally downloaded to me, And then if you ever get busted by the MPA, I'll write a note on your behalf saying he has paid the artist, and we'll see where that goes in the law courts. Like if Ozzy came out and said that, I would just be laughing. There would be nothing that could ruin my mood for the rest of the day. I would be jolly like Santa.
Well, there are a fair number of artists who basically say they're okay with downloads.
They say they're okay, but there's not anybody saying, well, if you wind up giving me the money and just do it as a direct sort of thing, then I will write you a note if you ever get sued saying he has paid the artist the proper amount for this.
That'd be nice, but also the artists, they don't like that whole businessy stuff. Well, it depends on the artist. Some do.
Hey man, those Metallica guys are big business-minded professionals. So
yeah, that sort of makes them annoying sometimes, but
well, a little bit.
I mean, they have a point too. So,
but I just like to. I mean, if a big name or even a moderate name in the music industry was to come up and say, you know what, I'll go to bat for you guys. Just make sure you pay the proper money to me because you apparently think of me more than you think of the company.
Bypass my distribution company because I don't care about them. And then they're
a lot of the distribution companies really don't care a lot about the artists. They care about the money they can make off of them.
If the artist starts saying things in public, it's like, oh.
It would be nice to see them stir up a little bit of trouble and see where everything settles.
Well, I mean, that's what rock and roll is all about, stirring up trouble. So yeah, so by all means.
So yeah, if one of the groups was to say that, I would seriously consider just sending the money and just saying I downloaded the song so I can get a little note maybe someday in the future if something ever nasty happens. Yeah. I think it'd be entertaining. So, if you rock out and have your own band, it might be nice to state that and then, say, yeah, we'll go to bat for you guys and have a little fun and see where things go. Because, I mean, isn't that one of the core, lessons from D&D? Eventually, all you can do is say, forget about it, draw your weapon, and see where things go. At least from my perspective, that's how it goes. Eventually, negotiations don't go anywhere extra, and all you can do is say, make a, just a swear of your choice, pull out your weapon, start swinging, and see how everything goes from there.
I don't know if that's a good lesson for real life. Most of the time, especially the modern world. But
here's the thing: is back in my hometown.
I like the thought of somebody just, in the middle of like a high-rise building, like the record company has its offices. You just pull out a sword and start going to town.
Well, here's the thing: is back in my hometown, we have a saying. I won't properly repeat it because it's.
I can just bleed that.
Well, that's okay. Let's keep this at least sounding clean. But it's it's like F you, F it, F them. F being the F, of course, the F that you drop bombs with. Okay, just making sure. And it basically means eventually, certain point in time, you're going to have gone through enough stuff that you say one or all of it, and then just leave. Okay. You know what? The person's giving you too much hassle, F them. One person's giving you too much trouble, F you. If the vehicle is just not running, no matter how much money you've put into it, you got in this fixed, you've gotten the tires done, you've gotten the realignment, just say F it, leave it on the side of the road. Eventually, at some point, you have to cut your losses and just go elsewhere. Do something different. So in that case, it's the same sort of thing with D&D. Eventually, just say to yourself, this path isn't taking me anywhere. You draw your weapon, see where that new path goes.
Yeah, for some characters, absolutely. Many characters, especially D&D, very violent game.
Well, I suppose you can even attribute it back to that old saying, don't go throwing good money after bad. After a certain point, you have to say, no, I am not going to pursue this line any further. I'm going elsewhere. So, it is a nice philosophy to know when to stop, like running yourself uphill and just relax, do something else, man.
Sure, so, yeah. So... that basically covers the news that we wanted to talk about. Of course, lots of other things happen, but not that. They
aren't a follow up to previous week's iterations or conspiracy based ideas.
Okay, cool.
So yes, what have you been doing this week, Josh?
I've been more Minecraft. I built a snow farm, I got a whole bunch of snowmen.
Snow golems?
Yeah, snow golems, yeah. And I put them in the basement of I built a big building with a basement, and I put them in the basement, and then now I'm just carving up the snow and just getting as much as I can.
Ah, very nice.
I tried to make the outside look nice, and I'm making a YouTube video that, people can watch, so they get the visual of it, so So that's cool. But yeah, it's basically just a snow farm. And I've been watching the Mindcrack. They did a live stream like for charity for Child's Play. So I watched some of that. They're going like crazy. They're doing tons of recording and like playing all kinds of crazy stuff, and basically playing Minecraft live all together. Like, and these are the most famous. Well, not the most famous. There are more famous Minecrafters on YouTube, but these are some of
the craft crackers.
They have a lot of views, a lot of searches, and that. So so I was watching them. So
here's a question that you mentioned snow. Has anybody come up with a mod where you can turn snow into like some sort of perma snow or like perma ice so that it doesn't melt in like a jungle setting?
Well, you can do snow blocks out of 4 snowballs in a square.
Do the snow blocks not melt in a jungle setting?
No, they don't.
Oh, in that case, I may have to have some fun.
Yeah, and I believe ice will stay if it's not directly under the sun.
Ah.
And in a snow biome, it'll always stay. But yeah, in a jungle biome, you can have ice, but just not.
I could have a snow castle in the middle of the jungle.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Very nice.
I discovered the hard way, though, that snow golems don't. Normally, they trail snow around after them, so you can pick up the snow after them. And I was trying to build my snow farm in the plains, and in the plains, I guess they changed it because the last time I did this must have been like a year ago or something. Mm-hmm. Because in the plains they don't trail snow. So. Oh
well, I know in some areas they just take damage just being in the biome.
Yeah, exactly. Desert, maybe swamp. I'm not sure, and
definitely jungle, of course.
Yeah, and the nether, of course, they can't live in the nether.
Yeah, I can see why. I can see why.
The reason I'm doing a snow farm is because I want to have like a steady supply of snowballs to try and use against the blazes, because
it actually will hurt them.
Do hurt the blazes, and I've been just hitting them with swords and stuff, and wasting like all kinds of swords, and so I was thinking, well, because this is my main source of experience, and use snowballs, and hopefully I might even set up like a dispenser to shoot snowballs at them automatically.
Very nice.
But,
very nice.
Yeah, I haven't got that far yet.
I like. Very nice. You've got plans. Let's see how much fruition they come to.
Yeah, things in Minecraft take too long though. Well, it's rewarding though when you finally get it done.
That's why I love Dwarf Fortress so much. It takes a while to get the good stuff set up, but once you do, it's great.
Yeah, and I did the foolish thing of I changed the recipe for dispensers to be gold on the outside instead of cobblestone. So now every time I want to make a dispenser, it's like, oh yeah, that's only 7 gold. 1, 2, 3, 7 gold. So.
Well, there's always the zombie pigman route, eh?
Yeah. Well, I have enough gold like in my reserves and stuff because like I mine all the time. So yeah, I just got some gold.
Very nice.
But it's like, oh, I know, it's expensive, and I did it to myself, so no one else to blame.
You made your bed, now you have to sleep in it.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I think that covers kind of what I've been doing.
For me this week, I've decided to look more into like poisons and syndromes. Because I was having fun, as I discussed last week, finding out about poison food and what dwarves eat.
You made the dwarven ale into poison.
Yes, and I wound up destroying an entire fortress in, say about 15 minutes, as everyone was trailing blood and vomit and skin behind them. But I decided to start testing out more, because there's 3 different methods at which a syndrome can be contracted. Through ingestion, through injury, and through contact. Mm-hmm. So I'm working a little bit more, seeing if I can make it so like leather will carry a contact, like a syndrome with it, which would be effectively like a contact poison. Mm-hmm. Can I make can I do that? Can I make something that is inherently damaging to the touch? And so I'm doing some experiments on that. I have gotten sidetracked. I found in the modding forum someone has made Daleks and Cybermen from the Doctor Who and put it into Dwarf Fortress.
Ah, very good.
Which is nice, because when you see them, the Daleks actually do pause and they go, exterminate. And so it sounds right, too. That's a nice touch.
There's sound in Dwarf Fortress?
There's not sound, but they can say things to you.
So
like
they say exterminate.
So yeah, there's some things like you encounter a tough enough monster, sometimes they'll say, I am the destroyer of so-and-so, and I put his head upon the wall of my, my kill collection, which was too good for such a puny runt skull such as his. Or you can make them say all sorts of fun things when they're attacking you. In this case, the guy, exterminate, that works nicely. That's it. I actually prefer looking at the code right now for the Cybermen because they have a nice syndrome that turns a creature into a Cyberman. So they have this nice little, I will make you one of my own, and
cool.
they will wind up with, like, they could be like a 6 of them attack a dwarf fortress, but because they can turn, the dwarves that attack them into more Cybermen, it could be that towards the end of the fortress you've got like 3 dwarves hidden away somewhere and like 200 Cybermen just trying to find their way to them or milling over the site.
Well, sort of your classic zombie scenario, or your Borg, I guess, or whatever.
That's the thing, and I'm looking at it maybe just changing some of the superficials about the whole thing, and instead of making them the Cybermen, just making them like a magical suit of armor that somehow makes people into other suits of like biometal armor. Make it because the thing about Dwarf Fortress is that the one programmer has decided, okay, we're not going to take it after about a certain point in technology. Okay, dwarves do progress beyond that in some areas, like their knowledge of gem cutting is much beyond the medieval level of technology you would otherwise find.
Okay.
And if you really know what you're doing with some of the levers and stuff, you can make a working Turing test computer, and you can actually have...
Complete.
Yeah, you can make Turing complete, you can make a calculator of the whole thing. So if you really want to force it, you can make something that's beyond the tech level. But something like, Daleks and Cybermen are not really in with the theme. So I'm looking at maybe turning the Cybermen into like a nice, more semi-generic, medieval fantasy thing. Or just look over the code and toy with it myself to see what can I do with this.
Yeah.
Because that's how a lot of the people in the modding forums learn. They take a look at the code of, you modded this. I see, this is how this works. I understand. Nice touch here.
Mm-hmm.
And,
sure.
yeah, and that's how you learn, is by looking at it. And right now they have vampires and all this stuff in there, but not everybody's quite so certain as to what relates to which monster and how it all works out, because it's all together in the game. And you can look at the files, but you're going to have to double check to make sure it all works right.
I see.
Whereas if you download the Daleks and Cybermen, you can just, these are the Cybermen. Everything here is related to them, so I can cross-reference a little more easier to understand.
Oh, yeah.
Because the 5 files are all right there in the folder.
Well, it's similar to what I've been doing, like some modding for Minecraft, and I made a new block. It's like made out of gas tiers, so it's sort of like salt, a salt block. And my idea,
but not a salt lick for the animals, right?
No, it's like, maybe, but no, I haven't done that yet. But the idea was that it prevents plants and things from growing.
Very nice. But
of course, in order to do that, you can't put that, I probably could find a way to put that code into that block. But instead, what I've been doing is going into all the different plant blocks. Okay, now let's do vines. Now, if a vine has a salt block within X number of blocks, X and Y and Z, and okay, vines are done. Now I have to go into the mushrooms and make sure the mushrooms can't be planted or can't spread. And now I have to go into so each different individual one I have to and then at the end of that, it's like you can't just distribute the one class file for this salt block or whatever. Yeah. You have to distribute the modified, all the plants that are...
and see, that's an interesting thing, is I was working on a nice simple mod that would take like a block of stone and grind that down at the millstone into a bag of sand. Mm-hmm. It was just something I was working on to test it, and I had 2 different ways to go about it. I could either say, grab a block, and do it. It has to be this sort of reaction class. It'd be like reaction class stone grind. And then into each of the proper stones I wanted to be available for that, I'd put in the inserted code, reaction class stone grind. Great. But I was thinking, because that would mean, either I have to say, you go into these files and add this to the appropriate ones, or here's the new file to replace with the current one. And instead, what I did was I just made 5 separate small reactions that only accepted a certain kind of stone. Mm-hmm. And there was an interesting discussion as to which one to go with. And I went with the more, in my mind, simpler one without the reaction class being required, and say, no, this is for people who just want to learn the very basics of coding, in addition to maybe wanting a lot of sand in their fortress. You can do some fun things with glass that way.
Yeah.
And so it became really more of a judgment call as to which way was the better way of doing it. Sure, it only would have been one reaction, but it would have meant having to change at least one file with a lot of stuff. And I'm thinking, well, you know what? I want this to be small, easy, modular. So if you're putting it into somebody else's mod, it's just, okay, here's everything in this one post I've put together. You don't have to tamper with anything.
Yeah.
Just make the files, insert in, good to go. Only thing you tamper with is the dwarven entity thing to allow the dwarves and society to actually do these reactions.
Okay, yep.
And so, yes, in Dwarf Fortress you have sometimes several different ways about going about the same thing, but they're all just as right. There's no...
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes there's a better way to do things.
Well, that's the thing, is depending on your perspective. Do you want to make it, technically would have been less code inserted in, and you only have one, like permit, reaction, stone grind, as opposed to, permit reaction, stone grind 1 through 5, and then, all this stuff. But for someone who doesn't know the stuff, is a little hesitant to mod files, it's a lot easier, a lot simpler. Or someone just learning out how to mod, it's a lot easier for them to proceed without learning, what does reaction class mean? Well, I have to, hit the Wikipedia for the Magma Wiki is what they call it, and look that up and see what it means. No, this is just something simple, easy, shows you how a basic reaction is done. And that's really what I was going for.
Yeah, okay.
Something that also helps educate the people out there. Because I'm that kind of guy.
Okay, yeah.
I had to learn it myself, and it would have been a lot easier if I had a nice basic example shown, so I put that in with my stuff.
Okay, so is that what you've been doing in Dwarf Fortress then?
For that, I've also been busy with life, but for the purposes of fiction, that's where I was really focused this week, was looking at the differences in wonderful little things you can wind up doing. So I might have some very fun with that. I might put out a little mod that effectively allows a person to become like a walking eternal suit of armor, the same way that a person can wind up seeking out, knowledge of life and death and becoming a necromancer. So I might do that. I don't know how I'm going to wind up going about it. Still undecided. I'm looking at the code and seeing what in my mind which has the better flavor for it.
Okay.
But yeah, that's where I've been.
Cool.
But we do have a proper main topic this week.
Jumping right into the main topic halfway through the podcast, but that's all right. That's what we do.
I think we've been talking about some very nice stuff, some good thoughts.
No, of course we have.
Yes.
So yeah, I wanted to bring contradictory narratives as an idea. Let me see. Let me unpack.
Okay, I think I can do this. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So earlier this week, Josh was watching an episode of The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
In it, you have the two couples, Sheldon and his girlfriend, Leonard and his girlfriend.
Amy and Leonard and Penny, yes.
Yes. And in it, it's a story of revenge about, getting back at one another for whatever slight. And long story short, one couple decides to confront, we don't have to do this. We can, just, let bygones be bygones and then become a functional relationship again. And they do so. Hooray for rationality. Whereas the other one ends with a tale of oh, now I've got you back. Haha, revenge. Now you're not having any fun.
Yeah.
And that tells the other outcome. So that's the long story short, and this got Josh to thinking, what's the purpose of this?
Well, I wanted to say that when I first watched it, I felt like a little bit cheated because I thought that the people writing the story were sort of sending mixed messages. Here's one story that ends in sort of a resolution. It's they resolved it and they decided to become better people at the end or something like that.
Or at least, get out of their dysfunctional cycle in their relationship.
At least, or maybe they're trying for that, yeah. And then the same, the very next scene, it's the opposite lesson is learned. It's oh, yeah, you hurt me, now I'll get you back. And then at the end, he's the audience is basically laughing at Leonard, who's his girlfriend went off and did something else, so he's stuck by himself. He's lonely now, or whatever. It's sad. But the audience is, I guess there is a laugh track in it, so maybe that's part of what
It's a Schadenfreude, as the term is. They're laughing at his misfortune and sorrow.
Yeah, exactly. So it's sort of the opposite, and that's what it felt weird to me because it was contradictory. But further thought, and also I shared this with you, and you came to a similar conclusion in that that's fine. Like that's sort of okay.
It shows the both outcomes of like what could happen if you let it go and just be the emotional petty person versus being the rational evolved mentality.
Yeah, but I should mention that it's good for writers to remember their audience and to try and be aware, because I don't know if the writers of this particular episode had that in mind, the contradictory. They may have, but it wasn't portrayed. It was just these two storylines were set against each other just sort of in a raw way.
They were very similar in theme, but...
Yeah, and there wasn't... A connection was not made. And maybe they did that on purpose, but I feel like the audience would have responded, or at least I would have responded better, if some sort of nod was made to the fact that there's something different going on in these two relationships. That, one they did the thing and one they did the other thing. And sort of like...
Option A,
here you
option
go.
B.
Here you go, audience. You decide, and maybe like just something to point out that those are different. I don't know. It's almost like different morals.
It could just be that option A, where they decide to talk to each other and come to the conclusion. The rational choice. It could be perceived as being very functional, but not as passionate. Whereas they could have made it changed the ending for Leonard, whereby, although yes, they're going through the petty, emotional responses, that still means they have a lot of emotion in the relationship. So like, just you haven't seen the last of this, and they wind up doing it just to keep, each other active, sort of thing. So if they had played it a slightly different, so that he loses, but not the war. They're still going to have fun, just playing around with each other in this way. And that they, he wasn't really sad, just, ooh, now I've lost, oh no.
Yeah.
Next round will be to me, haha. If they had played it a little bit more that way, would you have been happier? Like, that way you see that they, it's not like them being vindictive, but they're having, like, a lot of emotion in their relationship? So that way you could see, like a hint of yes, they may not be the rational minds, but they do have the emotion together?
It's hard to say. In the moment, I might have enjoyed that more, but, thinking about the show in the end, it's like, that wasn't very realistic, how she just sort of forgave him. Because I don't believe that. People aren't that nice.
I mean, sometimes with me and my wife, we come to, a bit of a crossroads ourselves, and it's up to, us to say, okay, listen, we can try to keep butting heads about this, or we can do our best to resolve it, and then just forget about it. Like, I can't even provide an example. I've forgotten all the occasions. Because we just came to the thing of say, okay, let's not do this. Let's not play this sort of game sort of thing, and let's just, just be adults, because we're adults. I mean, we have a kid. Not a time to be like some sort of man-child myself. Rise above. Just say you're sorry even if you're not, and get on with life.
That would sure complicate the Big Bang Theory, hey, if one of them had a kid.
Well, maybe in the later seasons. We'll find out.
It's coming. It's been a whole arc, like, the audience has gone along. It's my soap opera. It's my nerd soap opera.
There you go. There's nothing wrong with a nerdy soap opera.
But yeah, it's like, and the moral of the story is
either learn to be acknowledge what's going on in your relationship, or forever be slave to the passions and whims of your own character.
Yeah. So I suppose, and the lesson to be learned for me is to be able to try and somehow be comfortable with conflicting narratives. Be comfortable with, sort of learn this lesson, but also learn this lesson, and like.
Well, I think it's a nice show, of like what your options are. In the end, like this will lead to this outcome, but if you don't, it will lead to the other outcome. Mm-hmm. Almost like a parable, or if you want to work on a bit more of like an esoteric style, it's like the red shirt in Star Trek.
Yeah, because you need a demonstration of
what happens when
things go wrong.
Exactly, and if it's not going to... Okay, sometimes it's Scotty who dies, and I think Uhura died once, too. Same episode. The one with Nomad. It was the one...
I remember.
Yeah, it was the one where they basically recycled the story and made it the first motion picture.
Oh, yeah.
It was basically that entirely, and Uhura dies, Scotty dies, and the machine is able to bring them back.
Yeah.
hooray! But it did show how dangerous this thing was. You got to kill a few people to show how dangerous something is.
Well, and besides her and Scotty, there were actual crew members who.
There were
didn't
4 billion people in a star system dead because it sanitized, the biological, impurities within the star system.
Yeah.
That said, they were never actually seen. It just, in the beginning of the episode, they're coming on in and saying, "Hey, we can't get any response from these guys," and then they meet the probe.
Well, it's almost the same story as the pick on Worf story. It's like,
yes.
If you want to show an alien is tough, then
he beats up he beats up your local Klingon.
And it sort of had the wrong opposite effect, but the intent was that you had to show the consequences of this powerful creature. Like, what if the creature wins? In order to make it more meaningful when Captain Picard defeats it.
Yeah. On the other hand, I will say that because it the first few seasons made Worf look weak, they went the other way in the later seasons and really made him show how much of a great guy he was and how tough he was. And so his story arc, as it continued for the Next Generation and into Deep Space Nine, he was an awesome guy. I mean, this was, I wasn't always big on Deep Space Nine. There was some stuff about it I didn't quite like. But when Worf came in, I was always watching Worf. He's in the scene, something fun is going to happen, and he's going to kick ass because he's Worf, and he doesn't take this, I get beat up by the villain of the week anymore mentality. He fights back, and eventually, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, for a brief period of time, becomes the head of the Klingon Empire, thanks to a Batleth fight. So, hooray! But
all our characters could be so lucky.
Well, that's the thing is, you could see this as a story for like D&D where he winds up, it's like, oh, my guy's completely underpowered. Could I redesign him behind the scenes? And then, gets a few chances in the spotlight, becomes like, oh, hey, everyone really likes this guy now. He's no longer a joke character. He's a real nice, tough guy. And next thing you know, he winds up accidentally headbutting the king into unconsciousness. Rule of law in the kingdom states, you beat the king, you become the king. So, da-da-da-da!
I mean, I suppose D&D has the ultimate example in that, like, imagine you have 2 party members, like you have 2 frontline or a frontline and maybe a midline fighter or the cleric or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're going up against, I don't know, some monster, a troll. And the fighter rolls low, like a 2. And, just misses. And it's like, the exact same maneuver, like, say, the cleric happens to have the same favored weapon as the fighter.
No, like this. Natural 20.
Exactly. You're learning conflicting lessons there. I don't know. I mean,
well, that is the downside to the random number generator in D&D.
There's
the movie The Gamers shows that nicely with the strength checks. The Rogar, the barbarian, can't break it, and then the wizard rolls a natural 20, and he just rips the bars off, and he's just hooting and hollering and throws it away.
Yeah.
So, there's an interesting confliction there.
Well, I mean, you say downside, but it's also kind of. It's fun and interesting.
It is fun and interesting, and I think everybody who's played 2nd edition has had an experience like that, where it's like, oh yeah, you only got like a 2% chance to bend bars, and break things, but did it anyways. 2% odds. Give me 50 more gates before that'll happen again.
Yeah, and I suppose like a good DM would be like, probably just look at it and just say, yeah, you do it, because if it's not, an encounter, if it's just, here's some bars.
Well, that's why in 3rd edition, take 20 was given. It's like, okay, listen, if it's no pressure behind you sort of thing, eventually we'll assume you do the best possible result. You open it up. You bend those bars.
Yeah, basically, and then you don't have to spend all this time arguing about how strong you actually are and how much your character can bench, although I guess those are fun in themselves, right?
Well, I mean, no matter which character I've got, and no matter how weak they are, I always make sure to find out their maximum, like pull load. Not just how much is like maximum encumbrance for moving, how much is a heavy load, how much they can drag behind them, just in case it becomes an issue. Like, no, I can do this. Yeah, I don't have to make a strength check because it's listed right here. I can drag, like a 1/4 ton, so that should be both of these unconscious characters, on the little makeshift sled we've got for them. Plus, it's kind of nice thinking, like, how much does that evil altar weigh? I think we could tag that behind on us. We've killed all the monsters, right? We don't need to go this very fast.
Well, it's a thing on the character sheet, and
Yeah.
the third edition had, and I don't know if fourth edition still does, because I don't remember now, but...
We can check later on to see if fifth edition might. I think they've got
maybe.
some pre-gen character stuff on that.
Yeah, but it's one of the things you write down on your sheet. There's a box for it, so fill it out.
Well, that, and it's always fun to know this sort of stuff. You know, like, can you lift this? It's like, well, I don't need a strength check. It says my maximum lift capacity is double what you said this will weigh. So, yes, I can. I'm just not combat effective during it. So everyone else get over there, and then I'll drop it behind me as I go.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and those sort of encounters probably shouldn't be more than just like, a sentence or two hiccup in the...
Well, see, that's the thing is you get like some gnolls shooting arrows after you. It becomes a real dramatic scene. He holds it off while the arrows are like flying right next to him as he's effectively pinned to make sure his friends get through, and then he closes it behind him as the whole thing comes crashing down. So probably done. You can have a nice tense dramatic situation out of that, as opposed to just wanting to, okay, yeah, you hold it up and then you're going.
Okay.
So.
How did we get there from conflicting narratives? Oh, because one person might roll a 20 and
yes.
one person might roll a 1.
So, yeah. But here's the thing with the conflicting narratives, though, is you can see it potentially as like one of those choose-your-own-adventure books that they have, where it's like, oh, do I take the left-hand path or the right-hand path? And it's okay to go back so long as you keep your finger on that previous page.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
So, it's so long as you perceive it as being such a style that it's all for the entertainment factor, it's okay to show both potential endings.
Yeah.
That way you can watch it again and you can say, okay, this time I'm going to favor Sheldon for this thing. I'm going to be rooting for him, and hey, it comes out to the logical happy ending. Hooray!
Oh, it's very hard to root for Sheldon when he's being his embarrassing self.
Oh. On the other hand, you can root for him because maybe you see a little bit of that in yourself.
Oh, I hope not. Yeah.
Oh, let's face it. I mean, I'm not big on the series myself. It doesn't click with me, but I do see some recurring themes and personality types within me and several of my friends in the main cast there.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I've seen this before. Actually, very well done that you guys know how this will turn out.
I suppose, if I identify with any one character, it's probably mostly Leonard, which maybe that's why it bothers me, because Leonard he always gets the short end of the stick. Or, I mean, he got the hot girl.
Well, that could be a theme within itself, too, is that he is like the sad sack. He's like the Peter Parker.
Yeah.
He might get the wonderful lady, in the relationship, but you know what? Life is always going to wind up finding some way to knock him down another peg.
Yeah, although sometimes he does ask for it, and he has a bad attitude. But that's what I like, the flawed attitude, and
I would like to see more characters in TV to have such a knowingly flawed attitude, because there's a lot of cases where they only have a flawed attitude for that one episode where it's related to the plot and the story, and then afterwards they never show that character personality ever again.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of this show. Well, I mean...
The Simpsons are a nice example of it. A few seasons of jerk-ass Homer, as the saying goes.
Homer always has a different way of expressing his stupidity.
Sometimes he's a good-natured but somewhat dim-witted. Other times he's effectively, like an abusive alcoholic. Sometimes he's just a jerk. Other times he's a lovable goof.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something else to be said for that about having the multiple personality types in with the one character on such a long-running series.
It's hard to keep things consistent, but it's also the fact that...
It allows you to almost effectively retell the story again and again. And this time, this time I'm playing jerk-ass Homer. No, this time I'm playing lovable goof Homer. This time I'm playing alcoholic Homer.
Yeah, I mean, but we all have, our moments when I don't know, I'm never a jerk, of course, but some of us can...
There are times I've been a little brusque. Sometimes I probably could have stood to have taken a more tactful path myself.
Yeah, and then sometimes we don't get things and we're stupid.
And later on you go, oh, why did I even do that? Why did I say that? That was such a dumb move.
And then sometimes you have your moments of awesome when you're, the best guy ever. Of course, for me, those are more common than for most people, but...
Oh, yeah.
This is not one of them, because I forgot what we were talking about.
Well, that's the thing is there's consequences to your actions you forgot, and now you have to pay out. But see, that's another theme you can look at the story as. It's just making sure everyone acknowledges that there are consequences to the actions.
Yeah.
Because there are a number of series out there where in the end everything goes back to the status quo and nothing changes. Now, presumably that's what happens in the next episode of The Big Bang, is they're not going back on the whole petty revenge thing for the next episode as well. But in this case, you do get to see, like there's a consequence to this petty, series of actions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this goes back to Lucy and Ricky, and I'm sure even like honeymooners and stuff.
Oh,
There's all, the petty revenge.
I do like the Lucy and Ricky one because that gets you onto the character, the person, Sheldon Leonard.
Yeah.
Who was involved with I Love Lucy and the Dick Van Dyke Show, which is where they got the names Leonard and Sheldon from. So that was a very nice subtle reference to those that I had to point out for those unfortunate people that have not watched as much depth of TV as I have.
Our television guru.
What can I say? I dig some of the old television stuff. It's nice to have on in the background, and I pay attention to the credits these days, which I guess means I'm getting old.
Yeah, you are. Well, but not that old.
No, but that's clearly a sign as you pay attention to the credits, because now I'm picking out names and I'm seeing this stuff and I'm forming this new web in my mind of how everything's connected, and it's getting a little interesting in my perspective. Like, oh, he goes on for this. It's the same character going here, voice actor in this one. He connects up with this, and this guy connects, and it really is, Hollywood is a big web of who you know. And so,
it could be, yeah.
Well, that's the thing is, I always kind of dismiss it. It's not just who you know. Listen, you got to be able to walk the walk, not just talk the talk and drop names. Mm-hmm. But then you start looking at who does what and how they're all connected. You go to the IMDb site and you check out Wikipedia links. And yeah, in Hollywood, it really is a web of connected people back and forth. And who you know really can effectively springboard you up to great heights.
It could be, and I guess there's positives and negatives to that. I mean, even the people we watch, like, we talk about Joss Whedon, and he has some of his favorite people to work with, and we talk about Kevin Smith, and he has his favorite people to work with.
That's not just them too. I mean, you take what's his face, Mr. Chow, who's done the Kung Fu Hustle and the Shaolin Soccer. Uh-huh. Those are the most well-known Western ones. He's done many movies, but he keeps the same stable of actors, and they'll wind up making in-jokes in between, stuff, and so they'll reference like what happens in real life and what happens in previous, movies that they've all done together. Mm-hmm. If you've watched the stuff, it makes sense. But yes, it seems to be that anybody who has a lot of style and story to tell tries to keep a roster of people together,
Yeah.
The same way that
also known as a list of contacts, also known as friends.
Well, so that's the thing is they're more than just friends because they also work together.
Okay,
and let's face it,
people they like to work with.
Sometimes you can't work with your friends, and sometimes you're not friends with the people you work with.
True. Yeah.
MythBusters, Adam Savage, and Janie Heineman, they work great together, but they've acknowledged off the set they're not really like friends. They don't go over to like, oh hey, I'm having a barbecue, this week again. You need to come and join. No. They're very good professional buddies, friends not necessarily. So there is those levels of distinctions. Cause,
sure, yeah.
And people like Tim Burton, with his wife and Johnny Depp, he's able to have them as both friends as well as, like direct them. And you can bet that is not an easy task, directing a friend. It's like...
Maybe. I don't know.
It's like, hey, Johnny, I love you, all that, and you are coming on over for the barbecue after, we're done for the day. I need you to put in a little bit more effort on this scene. I think you're slagging your heels a little bit, and I want to make sure I get the best out of you. Because, that can't be easy to maintain that level of compartmentalization.
I don't know. I wonder if someone on Johnny Depp's level ever gets, that kind of advice. It might be like...
Well, he probably should have gotten that advice for the Lone Ranger movie, from what I've been told.
I didn't actually see it. But
you're not the only one. It was not a well-received movie and has not garnered a lot of revenue.
That's too bad. I would have thought, though, with Johnny Depp, he'd be like, no, too crazy, too over the top all the time. Because, that's what he does. But, no, I don't know.
But yeah, it just because, his wife is in a lot of, the movies. So it's like, how do you, direct your wife when you don't think the scene went right? You want her to play it at a different style and a slightly different speed, like be a little snappier, be a little quicker.
I sort of expect these people to be professional.
On the other hand, if you can find an industry that has less professional people than Hollywood's movie industry,
Ooh.
that's going to require a bit of searching. Because let's face it, there's a lot of very unprofessional, high-end people there.
Well, if you happen to work in Hollywood and are listening right now,
The Grudges,
send Ryan an email telling him all about how professional you are.
Hey, I'm sure there are very professional people out there, but there are stories about the grudges some of these people hold that last decades.
No, I hear that too about Hollywood.
Even politicians won't hold decades-long grudges against specific individuals. So I think there's
I think most people do hold grudges. Well, not most. How do I put this? There are people in any industry who
will hold such petty grudges for such length of time. But nothing quite so prominent as you'll find in Hollywood because they're celebrities or stars, there's paparazzi following them. This stuff comes out in the wash, so to speak.
Okay. If we speak like that.
Yeah. If you'll allow me to use a turn of phrase. It all comes out in the wash, and because in Hollywood, there's somebody willing to put out a story on it if it's a story to be told. So, being a director, and having your wife there, if there's some friction being caused by that, the paparazzi's going to see that, and they're going to see the argument, they're going to take the shots, and they're going to say, his direction on the set causing troubles in their home life. And next thing you know, the tabloid sells an extra 100,000 copies.
Are paparazzi able to get on movie sets?
They're able to sneak their way almost everywhere. There are topless photos of celebrities, and just from huge magnification telephoto lenses, you would have not believed that they could have afforded in the first place. But to get that $1 million shot, they'll pay $100,000 in supplies. Some of them will. I'm sure there are legitimate photographers there who aren't sleazy, but the paparazzi, boy, did they make a name for themselves.
So, listeners, if you happen to be a paparazzi or a photographer, write to Ryan. Yes,
if there's some underground current of we have to set a group of standards, I would love to hear about that. Just paparazzi that make sure to not take that extra step and wind up becoming the intrusive jerkholes that they keep showing themselves to be at times. I would love to hear about that. I would love to read the story.
Yeah, well, you read about the some of what you hear. Obviously there are, I keep on saying, there are jerks everywhere. A few jerks everywhere. Most people are generally good.
But these are jerks related to the news industry, so when they're jerks, it makes the news, as opposed to just being a jerk and then some guy is angry on the drive home because, my coworker was a jerk.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're jerks in public.
Some of them are purposefully jerks just to get a rise out of some of the actors, so that the actors do something that's worth taking a photo of.
But also you tend to hear it from a similar set of actors too. So some of the actors, I blame them a little bit. If I can play the blame game for a moment, and
some of them have very easy buttons to push.
But but some of them go sort of half seek out the attention. Some of them are just dumb or young. In a lot of cases, it's just that they're young and inexperienced.
Or it could not just be inexperienced. You could just say that they're not taking the time to properly reflect on the course of actions and where they will lead out to, and so they keep making these dumb mistakes time and again, which leads out to the option B for the story of the Big Bang Theory. They're not taking the time to sit down and rationalize and take that option A and come to the conclusion, no, they're baiting me, and if I keep this up, it will not end anywhere positive. And they keep following their emotional path, and there we go. Yeah, and we've come full circle. You thought we were tangenting. No. This was a master stroke of genius.
One thing I can say about the character of Sheldon is he seems to be in a lot of ways oblivious to emotion and stuff, but at the same time he has this awareness of his own mental health, and he thinks about what'll make me what course of action will make me less angry or more happy or less frustrated, because he gets frustrated at weird things like having a movie spoiled or missing the ending of something, or
To be fair, I get a little upset over missing the ending of a story because I come with the attitude, if I'm going to start watching a movie, I'm going to invest the time and the effort to maintain this internal theme that they're putting up together. So I will be in it. I will be a part of it, even if I'm just an observer. And if I miss the ending, then that's like robbing me of the time and energy invested to be a part of this. And so losing the ending, or even missing a good joke on a comedian's line, it does get me frustrated. Even if the person means well, like, oh hey, don't forget, if you don't, turn off your computer, you're going to wind up blowing it out because it's overheating right now. It's like, no, I will get upset even though it's legitimate. I don't let it affect me, because I realize, no, man, it was just a joke, or it's just this. I can find it again sometime later, or recreate it in my head and come up with a decent punchline myself, whatever.
Yeah.
You just got to maintain that calm in the end. But yeah, it does affect me. So I can see where he's coming from for losing the ending of a movie.
Well, and the thing is, he's able to, in some cases, he's able to plan and think ahead, and he's like, no, if I miss the ending to that, I won't be able to sleep tonight because I'll be up all night thinking about it. Or
how does it work? He's doing the same thing I am. He's trying to recreate how the ending would flow, but he knows he's not the same kind of person who would have written it, or even altered it, depending on who does the tampering.
I don't know if he has that awareness. He seems to be missing certain areas.
But he may not be conscious of it, but that might be what keeps him up all night, just trying to make sure he gets the ending right, but ultimately knowing he's not the person that wrote it, so he can't be 100% confident that is how the ending would have gone. Yeah. And so that would likely be the reason why he stays awake, constantly rethinking how would it have ended, how could it have ended.
Yeah, and it frustrates him too because he thinks he's brilliant and he thinks he's so smart he should be able to figure it out. And he should be
he has yet to learn the lesson that no matter how smart you are, you're only one mind. And no one mind can be everything and everyone.
Yeah, no, so. I think he still is convinced that he's the smartest person in the world, so...
And until he learns that valuable lesson, he will never have his true character arc come to completion. Who knows, maybe for the season finale, maybe for the series finale, wherever it winds up going. Only the writers know for certain. And even they might not know.
Well, they probably haven't written that yet.
Well, sometimes they do have that sort of thing planned. I mean, we'll go back to Joss Whedon. Yeah. Joss Whedon has several ideas, and he keeps things planted. He wasn't certain how many seasons Buffy would go on for, so he kept putting out the threads for potential, things to keep going. And say, okay, if it does go for, we do get hooked up for season 3. Here we go. This segs in nicely. Can we get it to season 4? I'll start laying down some groundwork here for that.
Okay.
Well, but then again, Joss Whedon's the kind of guy to do that sort of thing. I mean, you watch his series Firefly, and please do, it's a wonderful series. He definitely had at least 3 seasons worth of information put out there.
Yeah, for sure.
It just never got renewed.
Well, I like that. Yeah, in a pilot, if you can do it well, and you should be able to fit in several seasons worth of potential storylines that can go off from what you just show in one hour pilot. So yeah.
That said, I mean, you do want the epic scope that he's going for. It's not just the one episode to lay the groundwork for; it's an entire season's worth. If you get the chance, watch the first season of Buffy. It's not as huge and action-packed and deep as the next ones because they're building. You can't have a great oak if you don't grow the sapling first.
Sure, yeah.
So, it can't be that deep, until it becomes that through natural time and progress. That's just how it is. I mean, would that you could find some way to make it a deep and intrinsic plot from the start. That's just almost not possible. I mean, you'd have to do a lot of background extra stuff in there and have all the audience have extra required reading, and then that's a lot more devotion than most people are willing to devote. Unless it's a Stephen King series. Well, he seems to be able to get the people to do that.
What you can do with we're talking about television, so what you can do, what a lot of television do is, bring in the cousin or the grandpa, because everybody's got a cousin. So eventually
almost
your weird
everybody.
cousin. Yeah. Well, I guess.
There are some people out there who have very sparse family trees.
I guess so. Not
everyone's got 8 kids, per, family unit, man. Sometimes, they married, but they just never had a kid, sort of thing.
It's possible to have a very linear family tree. Yeah. Anyway, my point being is there's always something else, some element, you don't have, if you just show a single character in a, this character is goofy and he does this weird thing and that weird thing. And everybody's got a family, so what is his family like? It's like, so, you know...
It would be a Dharma and Greg type thing, where, the wife's, hippie nature is reflected by her incredibly more hippie parents, whereas the husband's strict nature is reflected by his very conservative and uptight and styled parents.
Is that how that was? Yeah, they matched, right? Because there's another show where they don't match their parents, but I think that's Family Ties or something, with the hippie parents and the conservative kid.
Alex P. Keaton, yes, with his young conservative style as opposed to the ex-hippie mother and father.
Yeah. So there's all those variations.
I remember this series well.
I don't remember it too well because I didn't. I must have watched some.
I still base my hairdo off of Michael J. Fox.
Okay.
Although now that I'm looking at it, he doesn't have the same higher forehead that I do. So maybe now that I'm an adult, should start looking towards Dan Aykroyd.
Okay. Just
things to put out there. If you're looking for a hairdo, look at the stars, but keep in mind they might not have the same hairline you do. That's a complete tangent there. That's not going to come back anywhere else.
I don't know if I was making a point. It's just it's easy to make up stories, I guess. Come up with a character, and it shouldn't be that hard to have new material.
Well, that's the thing. Is I defy you to find any long-running series where they don't bring in more people and more family. I'm just thinking through the entire list of webcomics I go through or maintain or have read to completion. And the longer it runs, the more likely you are to involve parents, cousins, and just bring in other people like co-workers into the whole thing.
Yeah.
Some get cycled out. Sometimes it just becomes this really huge mass of like a character cast. Not necessarily bad. The more people you have, the more combinations you can include, the more stories you can tell. If you're a good enough writer to find these storylines between the two people.
With soap operas, they can often lose main characters and just keep on going with now this is the main character and just not
who shot JR sort of thing. Yeah. So even the loss of a character can wind up becoming the main story for a season.
And sometimes the actors sadly pass on or move on
until we come up with robot actors. This will always be the case. And even then, until we get the proper backup technology, we might wind up losing the robot actors too.
And stories still happen. So.
Yeah. I can think of a few times where unfortunately the actor or actress has passed away, and then they have to find a way to make it work. Third Rock from the Sun, the passing of Phil Hartman. He abducts Harry, and it was like the season cliffhanger. What's he gonna do? And then in between the time, Phil Hartman unfortunately passes away for reasons that never needed to have occurred. When you think about it, nice and well. But then they have to find out, oh God, how are we gonna change the storyline? We've lost the guy that stole one of the four main characters. What's going on? So you kind of got to change the story on the fly sometimes for that.
Yeah, well, I trust them to do their job. I don't remember what happened.
He sold Harry to the circus and then left, never to be seen again because he couldn't be seen again.
Yeah.
Which is, unfortunate. He was a great actor, just absolutely wonderful.
Well, do you remember when they had Charlie Sheen die in the...
Oh, did they actually have him die in 2.5 Men?
The character.
No.
Yeah, Charlie Sheen is doing a new show. But,
yeah.
I think at the beginning of what it would have been fall 2012, I guess.
I kind of backed myself away from that because the internet was just going rabid over what's going to happen, what's going on. I was paying attention to Charlie Sheen himself, and they songified some of his stuff, and oh my, the things he was saying. If you want to learn a good boast, read up on some of the stuff Charlie Sheen has said. He should be doing script writing for professional boxers and wrestlers. Because his stuff is the smack he can talk is great stuff.
I've often wondered if Charlie Sheen isn't a role player of some kind, like D&D or maybe some other weird.
If he's not, I think he would really work himself into it very smoothly.
Yeah, because some of the things he says sound suspiciously gamer-like.
I have noticed that too. Maybe he's just a fan of the novels. Maybe he doesn't want to play, but he does a good fantasy novel full of the tropes and styles of the gamer archetypes.
Yeah, it's possible.
You never know. I've been told, Robin Williams is a war gamer. Everyone knows Will Wheaton loves a good game. He's up for almost any type of game, board game, role-playing game. You're going to shoot dice. You're just going to, move a clicker. You're going to move set pieces. He's there for it, man. Like a mystical being, he will just appear. That's what I've heard on the internet.
Oh, wow. We should say his name 3 times and see if he appears. No, that's
weird. We'll save that for a proper one in case we ever run out of ideas. We'll just try and invoke him, see if he shows up. That said, if he's listening to this, I do have a full set of the old Hero Quest board game system, including the very hard-to-find expansions. So if you're ever up for it, Mr. Wheaton, I'll take the dust off the top and we can have ourselves a good time.
With games?
Yes.
Playing board games?
Yes. Well, I don't know if he wants to go out and hit some of the pubs. I'll see if I can do that, too. He has been known to enjoy a good micro-brewed ale from time to time as well.
Oh, you know a lot about this Will Wheaton guy. Are you stalking him or something?
No, on the other hand, I do happen to follow a decent amount of what he says that gets posted through into Facebook from his Tumblr and his Twitters.
Okay, Tumblr to Facebook and Twitter, yeah.
Yeah, so, because, when he comes onto a cause, he makes sure he does the good research behind him, and he makes sure that when he backs something, it's for the right reasons, not just because he's picking up a fad of the week. And so I do respect him for that. He's a guy who makes sure that he does his research before he will back something. Some people have said, these people are, trying to support this cause. Why did you deny supporting the cause? And he goes, because I looked at the math, and 72% of all the money that they collect goes to trying to ask for more money. And from the remaining percentage that goes off here, only so many, 12% of it finds itself to actually the cause itself. It's actually a very poor cause. I've done in my research this list of wonderful causes that contribute significantly more of a percentage into such a thing. And so when he comes up with a retort as to why he's not supporting, this is a retort I can really dig because he's got the proof behind it. He's got the numbers.
Well, I'm glad he does think about it, but also, if sometimes they do need to spend money on making
There
money.
is, but some organizations, I won't name any because I don't want us to get sued, they do to spend a lot of their money trying to get more money.
Yeah, but if you compare, I don't want to get in an argument, but if you compare different organizations, of course there's going to be some are going to be more percentage.
Well, here's the thing.
Others.
We'll work with televangelists and all that.
Okay, definitely, yeah.
Okay, it's on average about 10% of the time on the televangelists, as a baseline, because this varies depending on them, 10% of the time is devoted to asking for money. We need your support. We need your money to make sure this keeps going so you can keep seeing the same quality programming and, we can keep praying for you. On the other hand, go onto YouTube and Google up Pastor Gas. Now, this is a man who, it's a funny little clause. They've managed to, edit in the flatulent sounds when he makes movements and does pauses and really adds a lot of fun to the whole thing. It's pretty much in good nature. But you can't get offended how dare they, pick on him. He spent 70% of his airtime asking for more money. So he is 7 times more disproportionate than the baseline, which might be considered excessive by some, to spend 10% of your religious programming time asking for money. Mm-hmm. This is a religion, by the way, that says, give unto the Lord what is the Lord's, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, having officially divorced itself, by Jesus' own word, from cash.
Those guys are, probably sleazy. Although it's not the asking for money that bothers me, but
it's what they wind up doing with it.
Well,
in a lot of cases.
Yeah,
but yes, so this man, I won't use his name on there because I want to keep things at least partially classy. You can Google up Pastor Gas and see the whole thing. But yes, if you feel bad about why they picked on him, because he was spending 7 times more airtime asking for the people's money, as opposed to talking about what he was supposed to be talking about, faith, religion, and whatever topic of the week he wanted to talk about.
Well, personally, I'd rather he talk about the money than the religion. That's just me, though.
Well, if he's got a good point to make, I've found a good topic, on any subject to be worthwhile to listen to when it's done right. That said, if, it turns out in the end, and this story means you should give me money, that I'm not supporting. I'm sorry. if it winds up just being a reason for you to donate more, or or come back to his line of thinking, as opposed to just raising a good point. There you go.
Well, I mean, it's if it's convincing, it's convincing. If it's not, it's not. That's sort of.
And that's the thing, is a lot of the times when it's not convincing, it's very transparent. And
then it's not an issue with asking. It's just an issue with, well, no, his overall thing is just not worth supporting. So, anyways.
Yes, but so yes, in the end, look that up and you can have some fun. It is a funny little thing to watch. I have yet to meet a person who doesn't eventually laugh. Some people naysay the flatulence humor, but this one clip gets everybody eventually. So
we were talking about conflicting narratives.
Yes.
Oh,
that's the thing, is the guys are trying to speak the religion, and then they're asking for very down to earth resources.
Yeah, there's a contradiction there.
Like, I mean, heck, if they were even to split it up and say, we need your money, but we'd also like it if you could pray for us and say a special word for us on your weekly prayers. We want to make sure this goes well, and to help that out, we do appreciate your support in praying to the Lord about this sort of thing.
I think
if they had, a few of them do, not enough make it a point to say, we would also like, you pray for us, and, you send your name in with your donation, we'll pray for you too. It's a I pray your back, you pray mine sort of situation. If more of them were about that, I'd probably have a much better, concept of the evangelist themselves, as opposed to my current less than stellar opinion on them.
Well, if our listeners want to pray for us, I'm sure
Lord knows we can use all the help.
No, I just if you want to send us feedback and stuff, we have an email address.
Actually, the feedback I do believe is even better than actually praying for us, because that way we get the direct feedback. We don't need to have this extra hand in the loop.
We want your thoughts. We want the things that are in your brain, not your things that are in... Well,
especially if they're conspiracy-based theories, because we can always use a good thought. And if you come up with just a doozy of a crazy idea, but you actually believe it to be just a nice, insane idea, and you don't actually believe it. We don't want to make fun of what you actually think.
Okay.
So
send us email to simulationist@gmail.com. Visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/thesimulationist. Visit our YouTube channel. YouTube just has the same stuff that this is on.
Basically, just Google The Simulationist. We have pretty much the entire front page going on.
Yeah, use your favorite whatever.
You can Bing us if you want. I haven't personally tried it with the Bing to see how much we're on the front page, but I assume the results will be about similar.
That's right. And most places have a little box that you can type a comment in wherever you happen to go. So those are always welcome too.
You could Yahoo us, I suppose. They still do a search engine, right?
I have no idea.
It's been a while since I've been over there myself.
Yeah. And we have a few more minutes to talk about conflicting narratives or contradictory stuff.
So now let's apply this to the D&D type situation. Do you believe that this would work out best is by having, like, say, the one of the lackeys, that tends to the mule while the heroes do the fighting, winds up disappearing or being found horribly dead, just to show how dangerous the dungeon is? Or would it work better to show these were past adventures, and that's why there's a corpse on all these spears that are coming out of the wall?
It's probably more effective if it looks like the people who got killed were powerful and experienced adventurers, rather than just the torchbearer got eaten by a grue.
Which is ironic, given that if he had maintained the light around him, he wouldn't have been eaten by the grue. I like that. Nice. So he was not an effective torchbearer. He has his own comeuppance.
Yeah, so that's not shocking at all.
But all that, and honestly, speaking as the DM, I am a little loath to kill the NPC hirelings. If you wind up killing a few of them, the players are more likely to say, well, why would we even bother hiring them or finding out their name? They're just going to wind up dead in the next dungeon anyways. Even if they don't go to the dungeon, they'll come back and the horses are missing and they've been half eaten by trolls. Now we have to hunt down trolls now that we're done the dungeon.
Yeah. I suppose what would be even more fun is to nearly kill somebody who's more powerful than the players. You have a paladin or something in the city who goes out on some quest and then comes
does
back.
It alone, all dangerous, man.
Yeah.
Just him and his faithful steed. Comes back missing a leg.
And cursed so he can't heal himself or something like that. So
cursed he can't heal himself, but he can't die, so he's always leaving the blood from the big old leg wound everywhere.
Well, he's basically undead then.
And what's a more horrible fate for a paladin?
Oh, that'd be good. Like, yeah, couldn't like an adventuring party come back as zombies?
I think that would be a wonderful one, you know. Or well, more towards the ghoul, because get the intelligent undead in there. Zombies have that partial action only in 3.0, 3.5. That makes it rather difficult for them to be effective combatants.
Well, I always it always is weird to me. Well, no, it sometimes is weird to me that it isn't more weird that zombies don't have identities. Like, zombies are just random monsters.
In this history for D&D, what it is they're basically just, animated through force of fell magics. Yeah. They don't have a personality because they aren't a personality.
Well, no, but...
The person they once were, they might look kind of like the person, but they don't have a personality because they're really... I guess a magical construct. Why they're even registered as undead was a bit of a debate in 3.0, given the fact that they could also equally qualify as a construct just using some very macabre material. You could even just rewire this spell for animate undead to make skeletons and make it work with the living oak that the elves apparently have, like the living wood, and just make like a marionette out of that. And that way you animate marionettes to your liking. Not an evil act, same sort of spell, same sort of, limitations. There you go.
Well, it's just that, like, sometimes when I play D&D, I think I've done this as a GM before, is that it's like, toss 4 zombies on the battle mat and say, 4 zombies appear in front of you. When... Like, you think
they rise up out of the ground.
Maybe that, or maybe
I
they
would like to
shuffle out of the shadows or something like that.
I would like to have seen some rules on that about zombies hiding in the ground.
Yeah.
For like a burst forth surprise scenario. Let's face it, they don't run. They're not high hit die. They don't have any real powers. They actually can't turn you into a zombie by biting you. They're not that kind of zombie.
Right.
So having a situation whereby they can burst up out and surprise the players would be a very nice, effective use of them.
That's a good it's a good thought for.
That said, back in 3rd edition, I did have some ghouls with a burrowing speed that made very fun times for me, and not so much the players.
But it's the DM literally says 4 zombies come at you, rather than something like 4 humanoid. Well, no, I guess a good DM would be humanoid figures that are slightly hunched over. You can't tell if they're alive. Or they're acting like they're sick. Or
if you want to have some fun in like an Egyptian motif, you can make sure all the zombies are wrapped up in bandages so nobody knows which one is the mummy. Cause a little bit of an uncertainty, kind of like a shell game going on. There's 5 of them there, and you've been told that there was one mummy lord and 4 minions with him. Which one's the bad one? Which one are you going to try and attack first, buddy?
Although it always drives me crazy when the zombies, when the arms and stuff are still twitching, and it's like, they come back to life.
And just the hand crawling around.
The hand crawling, and they come back to life. Oh, I hate that. As a player. As a DM, it's like, okay, yeah, that's kind of fun.
I did have back in 2nd edition some rules for having a skeleton that came back as a type of undead. As opposed to just, you knock it down and then it's dead again. It would be, and then 1d4 rounds later, it comes back up again.
Yeah, and as something else?
No, as the same sort of skeleton. If it was a skeleton, it would come back up again as the skeleton. Much worse for the wear, and so it can only do this a certain amount of times. I think I had it 3 times before they're finally too busted up to come back, and then the animated energies are finally permanently gone. And just a little bit of extra surprise that, oh no, they're rising again, fits well with the undead motif and the scare. Yeah, I was having some nice fun with the low-end undead at the time and different tactics with them.
Yeah.
No, okay, now here's a quick thing about the lethality. You said sometimes it's nice to almost kill someone more powerful than the PCs. Yeah. What about the almost death of one of the hirelings?
Oh, yeah, that's good too. Of course, usually that doesn't last because the PCs are like, oh, okay, cleric, heal, done, because that hireling has 10 hit points.
Yeah. Or, I remember the Sunken Citadel, poor little Meepo with his 2 hit points.
Yeah.
And, of course, every player group seemed to want to make sure he goes through every door first.
Yeah.
Check for locks. I'm only 1st level. I'll never find it. Just send him through. It's like, dude. Alignment violations here. You're supposed to be good people.
If you're the DM who doesn't mind doing total party kills, which hopefully you don't mind doing it occasionally, but you could wipe out an entire party and have them start again, and that could be the conflicting, one party failed, but maybe the next party will succeed.
I've been told that was one of the fun parts of the Temple of Elemental Evil, is the total party wipes, and the expectation that, no, dude, you can potentially lose everybody here.
Yeah, and then you just roll up a new party and go in again.
Try it again.
Try
and loot the bodies of your previous selves. Just keep this going.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember having an idea about like a fractured timeline-based campaign where you could effectively die, have the entire party wipe out, and it'd just be like the same as like having a party wipe in World of Warcraft.
Actually, okay.
They could come back again, they could loot the dungeon time and again to help practice techniques and tactics. So they could... Anything that supports better tactical-minded PCs, I find to be favorable. There's a lot of times where it's like, no, we're all doing our own thing. We're technically a party, but we're really 4 individuals, each doing their own thing in the middle of a fight. And I've never liked that. I would like to see the party interact more and work as a team more.
Yeah, some of that would be good, yeah, I suppose.
So even if it means them running the same dungeon over and over again, fighting the same monsters in the same groups and being aware of it, I'm willing to give that a slide if it means the players start learning to work together.
Sure. I guess the DM would have to do something interesting each time because I imagine it might get repetitious.
On the other hand, you don't hear a lot of people complaining about grinding through the dungeons in WoW until a couple months in.
Yeah, and there's something to be said for the DM who can deliver the lines like exactly the same. Like, you enter a room with vines hanging from the ceiling.
They're not vines, they're creepers! And make sure it sounds surprising every time it happens. I think there's a fun little bit of like camp that goes with that. If you can pull it off, it's beautiful. If you can't pull it off, it's horrible.
Oh, well, yeah.
But, yeah.
And one other thing I was thinking is what you could do, what might be fun, is have the party reach the center of the dungeon, or, the treasure.
The heart of the dungeon.
And there's, like, piles of gold and artwork and things that they have to drag out, in the bag of holding.
It's so heavy, even the bag of holding can't get lifted. You got to drag it across the floor.
How are we going to get this giant bronze statue out of here?
I've got a fireball spell. Do you want to convert it to ingots?
Okay, so that happens.
Yeah.
We've been there. And then, like, on the way out, the overwhelming force attacks the PCs. And so now they're laden with treasure and stuff.
I have heard a few times in the series Knights of the Dinner Table having similar situations getting played out.
Yeah.
Them getting attacked on their way back. There's like a group of centaurs, which were effectively like the medieval equivalent of a biker gang that would always attack the PCs when they're coming back after the dungeon. They're low on spells, low on health, and so they effectively mug them for their goods before they leave, and never are around whenever the PCs are at full health. It's a nice gold sapping tactic by the DM in that case.
Yeah, I suppose, you have to be careful not to be a jerk about it.
And that's the thing, is he did it a little bit too often, and the PCs wind up getting their horrible revenge, as they are wont to do. So, good times all around.
I guess we've exhausted the topic, or do you want more?
Well, there's always more to be spoken, but we can do that in another iteration.
Thank you for listening, everybody.
It's been fun.
All right.
Yeah, hopefully we gave you a few good ideas and a new way to look at dual-run stories in your sitcoms.
And all your sitcoms that you're writing. And
you're writing, you're watching, wherever you're going about it. So, yes, always nice to see the alternative sort of thing. I mean, you could have some interesting fun, like doing like a webcomic, whereby you go through all the possible outcomes of a certain starting point.
Oh, yeah.
If you're willing to go through that, if the people are willing to see that sort of thing, then you could have like just one short story that hits all sorts of various possibilities. It's a theme. It's not something I've heard of before, but conceivably could be easy enough to do.
Cool.
Every month you start the story again. Have it go a different way. Like that movie, Run Lola Run.
Yeah.
Which I do recommend you watch too.
It's a nice recommendation for us.
Well, it's a good movie that shows 3 different outcomes of taking different paths under the same scenario. So there you go. You guys stay out there, take care, ladies, gentlemen.
All right, send us money.